Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Senior Editor David Patton, and we're delighted to have with us former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, so accomplished in multiple media fields, but not only are you a bestseller in the past, but we think the next one is going to rocket up to the top of the New York bestsellers list. Breakout is the name of the book, and we're going to talk about that today. Breakout is kind of a positive message that we can get beyond a lot of the same old chronic problems that we've had with high unemployment and high debt. How do we do that, Speaker?
Well, we came up with the idea of breakout in part because people describe this so-called new normal. High level of unemployment, high taxes, big centralized government, slow growth. And we thought to ourselves, that sounded just like Jimmy Carter. And, Carter had malaise, and he gave this speech where he said, we're all just going to have to get used to getting by on less. Yeah. And the country listened to him and said, no, we'll just fire you. Reagan came along and said, and his first inaugural is well worth reading, because towards the end he says, look, we have every right to dream heroic dreams. After all, we are Americans. Well, and I think he was calling for a breakout. He didn't use that exact language, but and so I've looked at all the years I've spent helping balance the federal budget, helping pass welfare reform, looking at national security, and it seemed to me that the number one fact of where we are is that these big old institutions won't reform themselves. I mean, we've had efforts at reforming public schools since 1983, and the teachers' unions bitterly defend the right to be incompetent. We've had efforts to rethink the bureaucracies in Washington. New people come in, they make a brief effort, then they leave. The bureaucrats call them the summer help, but they never really get a grip on the bureaucracy. So I think you need to break out from the thinking of the last 40 or 50 years, and you need to get to the classic American models that really work. Now, what makes this really exciting, and Newsmax in a sense is a part of this, is you now live in an age where people have smartphones, people have iPads, where the level of things happening, we talk about pioneers of the future. In fact, in Breakout we contrast pioneers of the future developing better, newer things, and prison guards of the past, the bureaucrats and the unions blocking those things, and that this is the great struggle of our generation. And we outline a whole series of breakthroughs that could potentially rebuild our economy, rebuild our capacity to govern ourselves, give us much longer lives, breakthroughs in healthcare that are going to be astonishing, breakthroughs in learning. And so, for example, there's a particular firm called Udacity, which has now signed a contract with Georgia Tech to provide a $70,000 master's degree online for $7,000. Now that is a 90% reduction in the cost of getting a master's degree. And these which is a much better answer to the student loan problem than anything that Barack Obama has suggested.
But there's one area at least where, despite technological innovation, the technology itself perhaps seems to be making things worse. I'm talking about jobs and the hollowing out of the American middle class, that great lunch pail generation that was thought to be really the core of the American culture almost seems to be vanishing before our eyes. How can the ideas in Breakout address that so that technology becomes a jobs giver as opposed to a jobs taker?
Well, the first thing to recognize is that by breaking out in energy, by maximizing our development of oil and gas and lowering costs, we will rebuild American manufacturing. We've already added over 1 million new jobs in energy. These are high-value jobs. They're clearly middle-class jobs. We have the opportunity, as prices come down, to rebuild our chemical industry, to rebuild our manufacturing industry. Those all create good, high-value jobs. But in addition, we need to understand, and we need to be clear about this, that we live in a world where you have to learn for your whole lifetime. So if you lose this job, there's a 1913 Girl Scout manual entitled What Every Girl Should Do for Her Country.
Now, I knew you were a polymath, but the 1913 Girl Scout
but partly comes because Julia Lowe's house is in Savannah. and she founded the Girl Scouts, and I was at Julia Lowe's house one day. Both of my daughters were in Girl Scouts. My mother was a Girl Scout director at one time, and so it had very embarrassing early pictures of me at 3 and 4 years of age, taking a bath in a basin at a Girl Scout camp. So that's another story. But so I had an incident. But we went to Julia Lowe's house, and they sell the 1913 Girl Scout manual. Well, somewhere around page 68 or so, it says, every girl should learn 2 trades. So if one disappears, she can earn a living at the second. Now, this is 1913. And I think we need to readopt that attitude. We need to say, well, it's not that we're going to protect your job. We're going to help you acquire the skills so that you could have this job, or if this job disappears. For example, I want to create a system where if you have to draw unemployment, you immediately sign up for courses. So if you have 99 weeks of unemployment, that, even if you operate at the old-fashioned model, that's an associate's degree. If you operate on the new, much higher, much faster online model, that's probably a 4-year college degree in 99 weeks, because you can focus full time. Now, that does mean we have to have a big fight. We're going to have to say to people, no, this is not money given to you for deer hunting and bass fishing and sitting around. This is money that your neighbors and friends are giving to you to get you retrained so you can go back and get a better job. And that'll be a very big shift. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how the labor unions and others respond to this idea that unemployment compensation is a time for learning, not a time for just sitting around.
And I understand that smartphones play an important role in the technologies to do all of these things.
I ask audiences to take out their smartphone. And usually, if you have an audience of 200, there'll be 3 people who have a traditional cell phone. Everybody else now has moved to a smartphone. And I get them to go through looking at some things. For example, there's a website called Duolingo. And Duolingo is 35 different languages that you can learn for free. This is a free website. I'm trying to convince them that they should develop a course on learning how to write English so that people could take it online for free. So when you talk about Detroit has 47% illiteracy, well, shame on us for not finding a way to help all those folks learn how to read. I want to, my wife Calista has an app from McDonald's. So she can plug it in, and wherever we are in the world, it tells us where the nearest McDonald's is. Almost everybody I talk to now uses GPS. Mm-hmm. So you need to go somewhere, you plug it in, and this voice tells you where you're going. The point I try to make to people is that these are not phones in a traditional sense. These are information and communication centers unlike anything we've ever seen before. And I think they give us an opportunity to for example, to rethink public health. One of the things we talk about in Breakout is a doctor who has developed an app where he literally can take a phone and can hold it up to your chest and can give you an electrocardiogram while you're standing there.
Phenomenal.
That is unbelievable. And he pointed out in one news interview, this doctor did a particular procedure with a patient in real time, and he said last year that was an $800 test and it took 3 days. Now it's basically free. So these kind of things, I mean, the number of breakthroughs that are growing could be brought together to create a breakout in a way that would be extraordinary.
It sounds, however, that Obamacare actually strengthens those prisoners of the past.
That's exactly right.
Fields like regenerative medicine, for example. You need to be innovative. How are we going to do that under this healthcare?
Well, this is a great example. We have a number of doctors now who have had extraordinary breakthroughs in, for example, growing bladders. Now, what regenerative medicine means, they take your cells to grow, for example, a new bladder to put back in you, so you don't need any anti-rejection medicine. Your body accepts you because you're you, and it's dramatically less expensive, dramatically safer. But the Food and Drug Administration has no procedure for regenerative medicine. And so all of their procedures are for pills or for medical devices. And by the way, one of the threats, one example of prison guards is that the Food and Drug Administration is talking about regulating the over 1 million health applications that have been developed for your cell phone or your smartphone. Now, the last thing we need is the federal government starting to try to figure out how to regulate app stores with some bureaucrat deciding whether or not it's appropriate for you to buy that.
Do you think perhaps that the grassroots conservative movement and the Tea Party folks have a key role to play in terms of countering the power of these entrenched forces, the unions, the bureaucrats?
Well, I think, and I hope that Breakout is going to become a book that every person in the Tea Party movement looks at, and we're going to develop a course that's parallel to it that we hope that they will decide once they see the ideas, they want to be part of this ongoing process. Because we believe you can apply the principles of Breakout to your local government, to your school board, to your city, to the state government, to the federal government, and we believe it can liberate people and create just extraordinary new opportunities in ways that will make life less expensive, more convenient, enable you to live longer with better health. And to do all of that because these breakthroughs are so powerful and so real. To do that, we have to both encourage the pioneers of the future, and we have to defeat the prison guards when they rush in to try to stop the future.
I'm not sure if it's the media, but my last question would be, why do you think it is that the stereotype or the assumption is that if you're going to have a pioneer in an area, such as the fields that you're talking about, there's going to be someone progressive. It's going to be someone on the left. It'll be Bill Gates. It'll be someone associated with Google.
But that is the media. I mean, the media has this self-reinforcing model that says, if you're a good guy, you must be liberal. So even if you aren't liberal, you will be liberal by the time we get done describing you. I think that it has been amazing to watch the old order defend itself, and whether it's in Hollywood or it's in the news media or the academic world or government bureaucracies, there has been a long struggle to keep America committed to ideas that don't work. And our hope is that we will break out from those ideas and we will create a new dynamic replacing the failed systems of the past and getting us back to the American dream and reaffirming that every American has the right to expect a better future.
Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, always intriguing, thought-provoking, engaging. The new book, Breakout. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsmax TV.
Great.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.